I call the meeting to order. If we'd all stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Ms. Tabitha, do we have any additions or deletions?
Yes, we are removing Public Works from the agenda, and we are going to add Veterans as the very first thing this
Okay,
morning.
so we can make Veterans 4.1, and I think I got a little out of line right off the bat because we need to have approval of the county board minutes. I'd be looking for a motion.
So moved. Second.
That motion and a second. Is there any discussion on our board minutes?
Can I turn it on?
Hearing none. Sorry about that. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. We've got the agenda taken care of, and 4.1 under our agenda is Veterans.
We didn't do additions.
do any-
Additions, you went kind of ahead. You said.
You didn't get a
approval of
motion for the
county board
agenda.
I'll
minutes.
make.
I didn't get a motion for that agenda. We talked about it, but I never got a motion. Sorry.
Accept the agenda as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Sorry. Now, Veterans, 4.1.
4.1.
Third time's a try.
Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
So it'll be very quick. What it is, and thank you for fitting me in, I just wanted to ask for your approval to send Jim Sigler to the National Veteran Service Officer Accreditation Training in Reno, Nevada, so it's an out-of-state training. It's required for him to be able to be accredited with all the veterans organizations that I'm accredited with. He just gets to go somewhere nicer. I had to go to South Dakota, but... And then I just put together just kind of a rough cost estimate. I didn't have the mileage to the airport, otherwise I think I've got everything, a rough estimate of what it would cost.
I'd make a motion for more discussion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, and further discussion.
Question I have, Kathy, what happens if you don't send them? On this, like you said, it's required, but what happens if we don't send them?
Then he won't be able to be accredited with the VFW, DAV, and the national organization.
Where does the money come from at $1,600? Where does that come from?
Training budget, I can also use I do have the outreach grant, which I could use that if you'd prefer me to use it for this purpose, I could.
But the $1,638 is in your budget?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
I think, Mr. Chair, one of the advantages when we did hire Jim is that he is a veteran, so he's able to have access to a lot of the systems that we previously didn't have access to. So it was a strategy that we deliberately looked to when filling that position and when he came aboard. So it's a good thing. I would encourage that to be completed, that whole strategy. So yes, it's a good
Well, I
thing.
believe it's part of the job. It's what the job is.
It is, yep.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Kathy, thank you very, very kindly.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Next item of business is social services report.
Yep, Mr. Chair, and Brad was unable to be here, and along with Jackie too, but there's a couple of things that we want to discuss, and I'm just figuring that out. You were going to get a report on the collections activity, which is what Jackie was going to present, but I assume we'll do that at a later board meeting.
Yep.
The action items that I need considered are the 2018 annual new establishment owner license for District 5 for Red's Irish Pub in Swanville. There is an owner change, apparently, and that's what needs
I'll
to be
make
approved.
a motion to approve that.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
There you go. That's it for that.
And is that it for the social services report then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Very quickly, we're moving along today.
If I may, miss, that was the public health report.
Social service, public health, what Brad would have covered, yes.
Right.
Okay, so we're killing two birds there with one stone.
We did. I didn't transition nicely on that one.
It's all right. It's
Yes.
no big deal. I think we can move right along now to our land services report. Good morning. Good morning.
Thanks for coming over early.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This snow has caused just a couple of different transitions for today, that's all. It's no big deal, it's weather, it's Mother Nature. We adapt, we overcome.
All right, I have several items for you today, so I'll keep you busy for a little while.
Okay?
The first one is to take a peek at the recommendation of the Aquatic Invasive Species Grant Committee, the recommendation for the grant applications that we received this year for aquatic invasive species projects. The chart was a part of your packet, so you can see, hopefully you've got that, where you can see what we're looking at. But we did have a total request of $55,625, which was actually over what we had budgeted, this was the first year that occurred. So we were excited about that because now we have people that are really thinking about projects that they can do, and this is, I think, picking up some momentum. However, the recommendation for total grant funding is $33,096.61, and that is based on our review, the committee's review of these requests, how they fit into our aquatic invasive species plan, and what kind of projects they were proposing, and then how that fit into our plan. So I'll let Galen expand on that a little bit. I think we had a little bit of follow-up for the Pine and Cedar Lake request that I'll let Galen fill you in on why their requested dollars and the recommendation is different.
Yeah, so Pine Cedar, they applied for quite a number of studies and surveys and those type of things. What I found was that Cedar Lake in particular is a sentinel lake, which is a lake that's highly monitored by the Minnesota MPCA and the DNR, and so they've actually accomplished a lot of the things that Cedar Lake's consultants were suggesting that they partake in. So that eliminated a lot of the projects right there, and I'm going to be passing this information along to that association with permission of the DNR, and so that kind of takes care of a lot of it, and so that cut them down to one or two projects more relating to searching for new aquatic invasive species. I don't know what else you would like me to...
And then the other one where we have a difference in what was requested versus recommended was Lake Sullivan, and that is Lake Sullivan had proposed, within their application, they had a couple of different projects, and one of them was treatment, and that isn't something that we have in our plan that we are going to spend AIS money on. And so that portion of the request will be denied, and we will fund the rest. So otherwise, the other two requests up here, so Green Prairie, Fish Lake, Lincoln Lakes, their request and their recommendation is the same. Lake Sullivan, the treatment portion comes out. Pine and Cedar Lake, some of that duplicative information and data that they're looking for was removed. And then Platte Lake, their entire request is treatment, so that will be denied. But we do intend to have Galen work with them on a project that they might be able to put forward next year that would be funded. So what we're looking for is approval of the total of the $33,096.61 to be granted out for this year's AIS projects.
And I would look for a motion if for no other reason for discussion.
Also move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Grant,
Further
Grant.
discussion?
Commissioner Winter, can you turn on your mic, please?
Isn't it on?
There, it's on when it's...
Up.
Oh, middle? Oh,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah,
You're on.
we're good,
All right.
yeah.
Question I have, what is maintenance?
I don't...
Because you have here, for Lincoln Lakes, you got aquatic base survey, brochures, AIS sign, update, maintenance.
So last year, they got funding to build a kind of a kiosk that told visitors about the lake and what aquatic invasive species are there, and I think it actually had the place for them to pick up the brochures. Is that right? I guess I haven't
Yep.
seen it in person, so
Yes.
I'm guessing they have some upkeep on that structure.
Yes, so what they're looking to do is they're going to do a new survey of the lake, and they're going to update the signage at each of those landings and the brochures, and then also repair any damage or maintain those signs so they stay in good shape. So that's what they're looking at there.
And I had a question, and I misunderstood, I think, or didn't understand, maybe is a better term, for Platt and for Sullivan. No treatment. I missed what you said.
They were proposing treatment, so their request was for us to fund treatment of curly-leaf pondweed.
Okay?
But within our aquatic invasive species plan, we don't list that as a priority or as a task.
Okay.
And so part of the aquatic invasive species program is they need to be proposing projects that further our AIS plan. Those aren't projects that are even called out in our plan. So, and we had discussion with the committee about that as far as treatment has not been something that we have been looking at funding. And so that's why those portions of their request came out.
Just for the sake of discussion, isn't that part of the whole aquatic evasiveness, if you will? The curly-leaf pondweed, or I've heard that term for years now. It obviously continues to grow or appear. Is there a reason we would not want to treat that?
I think that's something we can discuss when we update our plan for 2019.
Okay.
It hasn't been the focus that the board has wanted.
Okay.
The focus has been education, detection, and all of that because there have been other funding sources for treatment. Also, treatment can be extremely expensive, and we will
Okay.
exhaust our funds quickly.
Very good.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm still questioning the maintenance because, again, you just reiterated it's for education, locating it. I just think that maintenance is kind of out of the realm of what we are looking for. I don't think we should have to maintain their signs or under this. That should be part of the lid, I'm assuming.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think it's educational signage. That's what they're looking to, was the idea that the signs explain what is happening with aquatic invasive species, so it's maintaining that.
So they're rather large signs, and they're at the landings of each of these lakes, and they have that. It's a sign of a map of the lake, and it shows where and what the aquatic invasive species are in the lake. So when someone's launching a boat, they know where in the lake that they may encounter those, as far as either to avoid them or if they've been there to decontaminate when they're coming off the lake. So it's really just the ongoing maintenance of those signs. Did they have a line item for what they were proposing for the amount?
They did, and it's kind of tucked in with some other items. I can read it here. It says, "We propose to use current AIS survey information to update our lake access signs at Lake Alexandria, Fish Trap, Shamna, and Crookneck. We also propose to perform maintenance on lake access signs as needed." So I'm guessing that's a fairly small item. I think they're going to be focusing on updating those signs with current aquatic invasive species information.
They have to
And
get
the
a
line
based on the
item
survey.
amount is
$2,000.
It makes up $2,000 of their request, and so
And how do we know that where this money is going? Do they have the receipts? Is that what they bring to everyone?
Yep.
All the lakes do that?
yes, in order for them to be eligible to put forward an application, they have to have reported if they were a grant recipient the year before, they have to give us a report and itemize everything that they did, provide receipts and documentation of all of that. So they're not eligible to put anything forward unless they do that.
And within,
They have to give back what they don't use at the end of
Correct.
the year. Correct.
Yes, correct.
and within the application, it has a report date, so they are required, they sign the application, it says that they'll submit a report with this information by the end of the year, this coming year, so they're supposed to submit it either way.
Thank you.
Yes?
One other thing, and as the zebra mussel searching on Pine Lake and Cedar Lake, are you going to get in contact with them, let them know that we have the tools necessary to do that?
Yes, I think, have you already reached out to them?
Yep,
on
I've
that?
contacted
Yeah.
them. So that's another reason why we're not going to be doing that, funding that piece of it, because we already are doing that. We purchased the nets already, and that'll be getting out to them very shortly. So.
Great. Thanks for everything you did on this, too.
Yeah, that's the zebra mussel screening is another program that we have and that we offer. And so that didn't need to be a part of this grant, and so we pulled that out as well.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chair, and with Platte Lake there, I would appreciate it if you'd help them a little bit, because I kind of thought we'd probably fund that, not understanding that we don't fund treatment. But, excuse me. So if you would work them, because that's the first time I think they've applied for this.
Correct.
And so they know what they can do to get some.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, there is a motion on the table. Those in favor?
All right.
All right.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and then the next item I have is to review and accept the 2017 County Feedlot Officer Annual Report. This is a report that is required for a delegation agreement with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. So really, it's a summary of our activities for 2017, and it really helps the state gauge whether or not we're meeting our commitment that is tied with the funding that we receive. So I've got Brett here, and he's just going to go over some of the highlights of 2017.
Yeah, so it was a very busy year. We needed a minimum of 44 inspections, and I hit 45. The goal was 52, but we did 15 or 16 conditional use permits, so a lot of my time was spent there instead. Also, we had a goal of 5 construction short form permits, and I hit 17. So there's more to do there rather than actual inspections. Let's see here. There was one emergency response, and that was to a manure pit. So I think that's the first time the county has seen one of those emergency response in a while.
And I kind of have to interject because I think the reason why we had an overflowing manure pit is because he said out loud that he didn't think he'd ever see one. And then maybe a couple weeks later, he gets the call.
I guess thanks for not calling and asking for help.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a bad day at work.
Other than that, there's not too much. It was very busy. With the 17 construction short form permits we went through, a lot of them were new feedlots, but looking ahead now, I just finished re-registration for the last 4-year period, and I think the number of feedlots in the county is actually going to drop by about 20 or 30 feedlots, just because the guys are getting out of it, prices are bad, what have you. So you might think that we've done a lot of feedlots, but actually the old ones are dropping off, so we're not adding too much more into the county.
Brett, I have a question, and this is going to almost sound like, is that all you do? And that's not how I mean to imply this. You did 45 inspections. 45 inspections doesn't necessarily, to me, come off to sound like a lot of inspections.
Correct.
I'm guessing it is, but it doesn't necessarily sound like it's a lot of inspections. You have a whole lot of other things that you do besides inspections.
Yep.
And an inspection is more than a 5-minute ordeal, I would anticipate.
Yep. So, yes, I got the feedlot stuff, but I also help around in the office, and I usually don't do inspections during winter months.
Okay.
Snow on the ground, you can't really see what you're looking at, so that takes out 4 or 5 months out of the year. And with permitting, that's a process to walk a guy through a permit, sometimes a couple-month ordeal, depending how fast they want to work on it. 7% was 44 feedlots, so we hit that mark like we wanted to, or have to.
In a nutshell, can you tell me or tell us what it is that you're looking for, or really about, and I'm not looking for a specific, about how long it takes to do a feedlot inspection? And if that's too much of a loaded question, just say so. I'm good with that.
So it depends on the type. A chicken barn or a hog barn, I never go in the barn, so that takes out a lot right there. On those sites, I mainly look for records. So if I send out the inspection letter and a guy doesn't want me on a site because of biosecurity, and he sends me all his records and his plan,
Yeah.
well, that's an inspection right there, and I never
Okay.
had to leave the office.
Okay.
Dairy site, beef site takes a lot longer if there's a lot of open lots, runoff, that sort of thing. But if it's all confinement, sometimes it doesn't take that long at
Okay.
all.
Okay, very good.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Brett, again, this may not even apply to this. Do you go out and inspect for or manure stacking in fields, especially in the wintertime? And if you do, if you see a manure pile, do you kind of put it down, okay, it's been here since this day, and if you come back 3 months or 6 months, do you do anything like that?
So I don't go out and actually inspect stockpiles unless there's a complaint or
Right.
that stockpile is part of a compliance inspection.
Okay.
And we've had that discussion before, Mr. Chair, about piles and how long they're able to sit there in compliance. And they can be sitting there during winter months, if I'm not mistaken. So that's not anything that's, we'd be out looking for something that's totally acceptable, in that regard, even though it seems like maybe it's not, I guess, to
And
some
typically,
people.
we're looking at those more in the spring when we have the melting and if they're in close proximity to a public water or to a ditch where we might have some runoff off of the site. That's usually when we're paying more attention to the manure stockpiles rather than in the dead of winter.
Well, no, but my point is if you're going out to some farm location, all of a sudden you're driving this mile and you happen to see a stockpile of manure, you don't make a note of it just because.
Oh, if it's right on the road or I know it's where it shouldn't be, I do
Oh,
look
okay.
at it. Yes.
All right.
So, yes, please.
We had a lot of barns go up last year. Has there been, are we going to look at any new ordinances or anything that, because the season, it sounds like there's going to be barns coming again this year. Is there things that we need to look at that we, put in a regular ordinance so there's not variances, or that there are variances and we take things out?
Yes, we sent out some communication to a stakeholder group to form to visit about some of the standards we have. We've received those responses back, and so now we'll be working with you to set one or two, we're thinking maybe 2 meeting dates with that group to run some things by a cross-section of the people that live in Morrison County that have various different stakes in feedlot development, to look at those standards. And really what we're going to focus on is nitrates, stacking slabs, and whether or not those need to be required, and the feedlot to non-feedlot residence setback are the 3 things that we're really going to ask for input from that stakeholder group. So I'll be in communication with you very soon to look at setting a couple of dates, because as we've talked about this, my understanding is that the full board wishes to be at those meetings and hear what is said. So that way then, we can make some informed decisions regarding some of those things and then react to that by amending the ordinance.
Thank you.
Brett, I also have to ask, how does this compare to our previous annual report, 2017, 16, 15, 14, and such like that? And as far as the state is concerned, that's who we're reporting to, how does this compare statewide? Are we right where we're supposed to be?
Yeah, I think we're right where we're supposed to be as far as the state goes. I had my review, everything went fine there. So I don't think that's a problem. And looking back through the past reports, I think last year I had 47 or 48 inspections. And before that, Darren was getting close to the 50, 52 mark. But the last 4 or 5 years, I look back through his records, and this is the highest year we've had for CUPs and construction short forms. So kind of depends on what else is happening with the program as well.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And then this will be the last year we'll have Brett as a feedlot officer, because he's going to be transitioning to an appraiser position here this spring. So we're interviewing this Friday for Brett's replacement.
Okay.
So
So we can't have a /feedlot /assessor, huh?
No, I think Jean would fight me on that. No, it's a full plate going to a full-time appraiser position. But number one, we are very, very excited that Brett wishes to continue to work with us and wants to work with us and wants to transition. And we think, I am particularly excited about having someone with a planning and zoning background, ag background, in an appraising position. I think it's a perfect marriage. So we are very excited to have him
Well,
transition.
congratulations,
Yeah.
Brett, and thank you for everything that you've done with this stuff. It's a big job, so thank you for that.
And thanks for
Appreciate
your
it.
Thank you.
interest in investing in Morrison County.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think,
Should
all
be
we
it.
have, unless you have other questions.
You got a
We
motion?
don't need a motion.
What do you mean?
I'll make a motion.
We don't need a motion, I don't
Oh, we
think, do
don't need a
we?
motion.
We need, we need for you to approve this because we will need signature from the
Yep.
board chair.
I'm sorry. It says discussion report, it doesn't say action. Sorry, but we can certainly have action.
I'll make a motion to approve this as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes, thank you.
Yes, it's in the back. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome, thank you very
All
kindly.
right. And then the next item I have is to consider the interim use permit request for the Sayre Family Revocable Living Trust. And this was heard by the Planning Commission, recommended for approval. And this is to expand an existing contractor's yard and storage with the construction of a new building to be used for storage and a wash bay. This was recommended with conditions. Those 4 conditions are abide by all applicable state and local laws in regards to proper disposal of automotive fluids and wastes, maintain records of disposal of automotive fluids and wastes. A holding tank must be installed to collect the shop and/or wash bay drain water. The water from the holding tank must be properly disposed of according to MPCA requirements. And the interim use permit shall terminate when David Sayre and/or Daniel Sayre no longer owns the property.
I'll make a motion to approve the interim permit with the 4 conditions as read.
Second.
Further discussion? I would ask just one question. Would this also include David's wife?
No,
Well, I'm just asking.
Or Dan's wife, maybe would be
Dan?
the same, both, I guess that's.
Both?
no, what was
I don't know that they're
discussed-
both married, sorry.
They are.
Yeah, what was
Just happen to know.
discussed at the hearing was that Dave was the operator, is the current operator of this
Okay.
business, and that the plan was for his son to take it over. So those were the only 2 names that were discussed, so that's what made it into the,
Okay,
and I honestly don't know if his son is married.
okay. And-
3 lovely children.
Okay, very good. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes, thank you very much.
Thank you. And then I've got Jean for an abatement.
Good morning, Jean.
Morning, Gene.
Dean?
I have one abatement that was in your packet.
And
A travel trailer that was, should not have been valued since it had current tabs.
Okay.
So I would recommend approval or ask for approval for the.
Also move, Mr. Chair.
abatement.
second,
Discussion? None? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes, Jean, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to take this moment to say that the appraisers are rocking and rolling and we're finished, we're in the last leg of getting everything ready for the valuation notices to go out. So, and Jean has been doing an excellent job at leading and guiding them and working with me. And so I want to take this time to let you
Good.
know how well things are going in our office and how well we work together. So it's been a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you, that's wonderful to hear.
Wholeheartedly agree. And as just a note, to remind you that tax statements and evaluation notices go out together, and that usually is done the end of March, beginning of April at the latest. And so if you hear of that question out there, it's one that we get commonly about when those are going out and when folks can expect those. And that was a move that we made a number of years ago already, to send them together instead of 2 different mailings in order to save costs and make sure that people pay attention, though, to
Yeah.
the differing functions of those pieces of information, where an evaluation notice sets in place that opportunity to appeal, if you want to appeal to your local boards, things of that nature, so pay attention to that, whereas the tax statement is that bill for that current year taxes that are due. So two very different pieces of information that have different timelines to address. So just a reminder out there to the public to make sure they pay attention to that.
Yep, and we've set all the local boards already, the dates and all of that, so those will start April, and so that's everybody's opportunity to discuss their valuation notice.
Which
good.
then is the basis for the taxes for the next year, the following year. And so, you hate to see people miss the opportunity if that's what they would like to address. And questions can go to the Land Services Department, and they'll be happy to address them if needed.
If I may, if you could send out those rough valuations, in December, January, what your taxes are going to be? Is that when they
That's
come
the
out?
truth in
Those
taxation.
taxes.
No, but that comes to you and it says, okay, here you go.
Proposed.
This
Proposed tax statement.
And that comes out when?
In November.
November.
Those go out.
So then you have until like January 6th, I think, or something like that, don't you?
No, those are for last year's assessment payable in those, that would be for 2019. So what we're looking at sending out now in March is going to be the 2018 payable 19
Right.
taxes. So it's kind of difficult because when they get it, the years are, we've got two separate years on the tax statement, and they're different than the valuation notice. So that gets to be a little bit confusing. But they have to actually, if they disagree with their value, they have to come this spring to the boards. So by the time they get that notice and they get their taxes, it's too late to do anything about their value at that time. So
The purpose of that truth and taxation statement in November is for you
Right.
as a board and folks that have an issue with the budget that you sent, with the levy that you're setting, with all of those taxing authorities, like the school districts, the cities, the county. They have a responsibility, because the legislature said we do, to let folks know, based upon your value, which is already set, and you don't have the opportunity to appeal right now, because that time has passed, this is what your taxes are going to be. And it's not to appeal that value, but to appeal to you for the budget that's being set and why that's being set and taxed accordingly.
And that's why I brought it up. It does get confusing for a
Yes,
lot.
very
It
much.
does, it does.
So I just-
And we do get a lot of phone calls in the spring when when the notices go out because of the difference in years and.
And that's what we're there for,
Yep.
to explain it.
The law it's very prescribed what we have to communicate, when we have to communicate, even though sometimes it causes maybe more confusion than clarity.
Anything further?
I have nothing.
Thank you both very, very kindly. Appreciate it. And then on our agenda, we have county board warrants.
So those need to be approved in a roll call vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants and pay the bills.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. This is a roll call. Those in favor, Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell.
Aye.
And myself, aye. That motion passes.
Thank you.
And then we move on to the administrator's report.
Yes, and the only action item that I have is a resolution seeking the authorization from the legislature regarding the Auditor Treasurer's Office and gaining that same authority that you have with the Recorder's Office, like we discussed previously, to be able to appoint. So that way, if at some point in time in the future, you as a board find yourself where that would suit the organization best, you have the ability then to enact that. And so similar to the Recorder's Office, exactly the same as what we're proposing. Representative Creechon, Senator Gazelka are already aware of this and willing to carry that legislation, so this just formally identifies that.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? This motion passes.
All right, we'll communicate that out.
Okay, very good.
And then, other than that, just plugging away at the, other than that, I have a replacement position in our maintenance, our kind of under admin, under John Erdrichs. There's somebody who announced retirement in the next couple of months, and so I'd like to get going on replacing that position so we continue as regular level staff or as existing staff. And so in order to get that rolling, I would appreciate your approval with that.
Simply a replacement position, not an addition.
Nope.
You want a motion on that?
Yeah, if I could, as long as.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Yep.
Look for a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to replace a person on our list. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion is passed.
And so we'll be replacing that. It's a maintenance / housekeeping position that's in the evenings is what we'll be looking to replace and continue on. It's a busy time for maintenance with all the remodels and whatnot, so a hole in that for longer than necessary is
Our maintenance staff
Trying to
does a
avoid.
phenomenal job, as far as I'm concerned, throughout the entire government facility. And to lose one of them simply means that we lost one, and we're not going to have that same quality. So I certainly wholeheartedly approve that too, so
okay, we'll be working on that.
good thing. And then our next item, I think, if you're done, Ms. Gruber?
I am done unless anybody has anything for me.
I do.
Yes.
Have you heard anything on the Boundary Commission stuff? Are you,
Not more than what I reported to you last week.
so what's our process? Or,
I
mean,
am waiting to hear back from friends, or Stearns County, and helping us with answering some of those questions.
Okay.
Dave Myers is out
Oh,
until
that's
March
right,
7th.
that's right,
So that's
okay.
been that I'm working on trying to develop an outline, but I want his okay with what we communicate out to the public again, which I can't imagine it's a problem. It's just reporting what it is that we learned and what we're moving forward with. And so I'm hoping to get that out this week.
Okay.
For sure to the public, with where we're at, which is kind of learning more. You know, you saw the results. It wasn't conclusive. I think we all determined that there certainly are people who want to see this process move forward. There are some that do not. And so it's kind of weighing that. The last that we talked about was to learn about how substantially that change in the corner impacts existing property lines, and kind of get that outlay and kind of better understand those two different approaches, one being a boundary commission and one being a setting a JLM to move forward with where to survey from.
I've just been getting some calls
Yep.
again, and so I just want to keep them informed on,
Yep.
and move as fast as we possibly can. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, and sending out that information this week, but again, with David's
Yeah,
input,
I
and I'm
forgot
waiting
about
for him
Dave
to,
being
yeah.
gone. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything further for the good of the cause? Then I would look for schedules, and those schedules are going to go from March 11th to March 25th. Commissioner Wincher, would you like to start us off?
Sure will, if I can find my March 11th here. Okay, we have planning on at 8:30.
When's that going to be?
The 13th.
Okay,
I don't know if I have department heads there, department heads.
We'll have one, yep.
Okay, at 8:30 also.
that's on the 14th?
Yes, on Wednesday.
14th, excuse me. And then we also, there's the annual meetings, the elections for all the townships in Morrison County on the 13th. And those are usually all at 8 o'clock, so it'd be nice to get everybody out to attend those annual meetings for their townships. On the 16th, Pine Grove Zoo event at the Falls Ballroom. I believe that's at 7 o'clock.
The dueling piano event. That is fun usually.
And moving forward, the board is at 9 o'clock on Tuesday the 20th. And I have Great River at 5 p.m. on Tuesday the 20th in St. Cloud. And on the 22nd, Thursday, I have Soil and Water at 9 o'clock and TCC at 5 o'clock that day. And you said that's where we're going to, right?
25, yep.
Yep.
And you said Great River was on Tuesday, the 20th?
Yep.
What's that?
For Great River Regional Library.
Commissioner Lemire,
The only thing different I got is the 12th. I got the Yellow Ribbon Committee
okay,
at Cabin Fever.
okay. Commissioner Wilson,
And on the 15th, I got airport, and at noon. And on the 20th, I got community development at 12:15. And Greg Zilka is having a retirement party at the ballroom on the 23rd for Coburn's and mayor and stuff, so,
I believe that starts at 6.
yep.
At all? Is that all?
Ballroom, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. On the 12th, Public Health is having another responsible beverage server training at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at Public Health. On the 13th, at noon, I've got Towards Zero Death in Public Health. On the 14th, I'll be speaking in Staples to a driver's ed class. On the 15th, I've got Armor, Owners and Operators at 10 o'clock in Alexandria. At 7:30 that evening, I've got an Egg Society meeting. I'm not positive if I'm attending or not, but at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 19th, there's a health fair at Little Falls Community High School. On the 21st, I've got a phone conference for the upcoming Public Safety Conference at my house at 1 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock on the 21st, I've got a Hands of Hope meeting. I believe that's at the Pine Country Bank. On the 22nd, I have a State Emergency Communications Board meeting with Armor at 12:30, and that's in the cities, and I can't think of where, and I know where, but I can't think of it right off the top of my head. On the 24th, Hands of Hope is having their benefit, where they're having a band coming from St. Cloud and doing a Neil Diamond concert at the ballroom, and I think I'll be there early on at the start because I'll be working it.
What date was that, Jeff?
And that's on the 24th. And that should be it. With that, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move,
So
Mr. Chair.
move. A second?
Got a motion and a second. Discussion on adjournment? Hearing none. Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion passes. Gentlemen, have a wonderful week.
Cool.